covering everything that you need to know in talent experience.
People applying for new positions is like the cherry on top.
With the technology to attract talent.
Recruiters always know their best talent.
The AI just learned to use that information.
Inclusion efforts across the organization.
Tell me what it's like to work through associate story.
Interviews with leaders in the industry. Talk about what's new in HR tech. What are the hot topics? We're here every week, folks. Weekly look at the latest and greatest topics in HR. What's up, friends? Oh, I'm out of focus. Let's fix that, right? There you go. Now I'm in focus. What's up, friends? Welcome to Talent Experience Live. This is, as I like to call it, the greatest show on the internet. I know it's a bold statement. I like bold statements, though. We'll have plenty of them in this episode. Talent Experience Live was actually voted the #1 show on the internet last week by my 4-year-old daughter, who was on spring break. And she caught the episode with Luba Bogdanovic last week. And honestly, after the episode, she really resonated with his vision for the evolving role of recruiters, right? So Luba was all about, how do we evolve recruiters into talent advisors? And my daughter, Hannah, she even turned Peppa Pig off so that she can tune in to Talent Experience Live. And that alone is high praise, right? So I am super excited to be here. All joking aside, this is the place to be every week. If you are a recruiter, a sourcer, a talent marketer, or a talent manager, we love talking about all things talent experience. I'm your host, Tom Tates. I'm on the marketing team here at Phenom. If you're just joining us, we go live every Thursday, 12 p.m. Eastern time. We're on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube, we're on Facebook. Be sure to like, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, hit that little bell so you get notified. We want to make sure you never miss a beat. We love being here, and we wouldn't be here without you also being here. So thanks for joining us today. Talent Experience Live is proudly brought to you by the team here at Phenom. Our purpose is to help 1 billion people find the right job. That's not a typo. It's a true billion. We're well on our way. Can't do it without our amazing community. We have a talent experience platform that helps candidates find the right fit faster. It helps employees evolve in their current role and beyond. It helps recruiters achieve some of that next level productivity and efficiency, and it helps your managers build better teams with data. All of this is powered by super slick AI and machine learning. We love talking about this stuff. Head on over to phenom.com if you want to learn more, if you're interested. But enough about the platform, enough about Phenom. I want to hear from you. I want to know who you are, where you're from, what you do. I love connecting. Talent Experience Live has been an awesome place for you to connect with your peers as well. So get in the chat, make sure you connect, network. If you're looking for a specific thing, it's a good opportunity to meet like-minded people, who are working to solve some of the same challenges. So let us know. Every single week, we like to also kick things off with an icebreaker. So this week, I actually have a cup of coffee here. Wawa coffee. I have to give a huge Pennsylvania shout out to Wawa. Wawa is celebrating Wawa Day. It is their 58th year in retail, which is amazing. And their Twitter account profile was so great today. So if you go on Twitter and you check out Wawa, it's wake up, get a free coffee, which I did, and prosper. And I absolutely love it. I love the term prosper, and so awesome to see Wawa celebrating their 58th year today. Thank you, Wawa, for serving our communities, especially here in Philadelphia, Eastern Pennsylvania. For as long as I've lived here, has always felt like Wawa was an integral part of the community. So super amazing. Cool place to work too. I've never met a Wawa associate who didn't have a smile on their face, right? So I love going into Wawa and getting that free coffee. I love paying for it too. But that kind of ties into today's icebreaker question, which is what's your go-to beverage, right? So a fun one today. What is your go-to beverage? And if it's a hot beverage like coffee, how do you take it? How do you take that beverage? So for me, I always used to drink my coffee black. I started using a little splash of almond milk, right? Unsweetened though, but I love that. It doesn't have to be a hot beverage. Let us know. Caroline's tuning in here saying Wawa is the best. I totally agree. Here in PA, we love Wawa Day. So we get a little excited when that free coffee comes along. Awesome. So tune in. Let us know in the chat. What is your favorite beverage? And while you're doing that, I'm going to tie this in super nicely with today's episode, right? You're going to love this transition. Beverage trends, they change often, right? They change often. We go from seltzer season, which is coming up. Everyone loves a nice cold seltzer, alcoholic or non-alcoholic, pick what you like. And then after that, we jump right into pumpkin spice everything season. Everyone loves that too. And it's easy for us to jump from trend to trend, right? It's easy for the hottest new beverage to come out. You all know where I'm going with this, right? It's kind of like recruitment marketing. Every time that shiny new object pops up, we enter in that new season. It's easy to jump on it, right? And it's easy to see what competitors are talking about or what the hot new thing is, and start to fret over it. And it's also super easy. We'll talk about this today. It's super easy to just kind of throw budget at the wall and see what sticks. Just throw it out there. See if you can get something going with a little bit of money. But is this the right way to do it? Is this the right way to get your employer brand out there? Is this really the right way to attract and engage best fit candidates at scale? I'm not sure, right? I'm not sure. And we're going to talk about that today with our amazing guests. Before we bring our amazing guest on, we've got a couple of folks chiming in here. So John Harrington likes his coffee black. I could have guessed that. Patry, our amazing producer, is not boring, but she's self-deprecating here, saying that she's boring. Water, I love it. Light on ice, yeah, water's great. Gotta get those 8 cups a day in. Or Patrick is tuning in. Hazelnut coffee. Afternoon drink. Oh, I love this too. Also being from Pennsylvania Dutch birch beer. It's a classic around these parts. Amy tuning in. Amy, welcome. Soda water with fresh squeezed lime. Love that too. And Patry, of course, the good Coca-Cola in the glass bottle is also very refreshing. Awesome. Well, listen, we have an amazing show today. We have a huge topic that we want to cover, and we're going to go deep into it. Today, we are joined by Sara Elkins. Sara is the VP of Digital at Shaker Recruitment Marketing. And we're going to cover all of the topics that I talked about earlier. What is the best way to approach employer branding today? And how do you do it so that you can scale it without just throwing money at the wall and seeing what sticks, right? So we're going to get into it. Let's bring on Sara to the show. Sara Elkins, welcome to Talent Experience Live. We're so excited to have you today.
Thank you. Super excited to be here with everybody.
I have to ask you the icebreaker question. Do you have a go-to beverage these days? Whether it's your daily favorite? Yeah,
I'm going to have to go with water.
Okay.
There's a lot of just kind of plain water drinking, not even ice, old fashioned, out of the tap, nothing fancy.
Hey, we need it to survive, right? So it's important. Yeah, I love that. And there's nothing boring about it. Laura A., thanks for joining. She chimes in. Also a recruitment marketer. So welcome. Go-to beverage has to be a chai tea latte, hot or cold. Love those as well too. So Sara, before we really get into today's topic, one of the things we always talk about on Talent Experience Live is that very rarely does someone, at the age of 5, 6, 7 years old, wake up and say, "Oh, I really want to be in HR. I really want to get into HR, talent acquisition, recruitment." So how did you get started? Everyone has this unique origin story, this unique journey. I'd love to know kind of how you found your way into this space.
It is kind of funny. So way back 100 years ago when I graduated college, I graduated and I was a teacher. So I was an 8th grade English teacher for several years. From there, I went into corporate recruiting, which then you were still kind of teaching and educating. And then from there, I went into the business space with recruiting and started talking to people about, good old newspaper ads. And then that was with old school Career Mosaic and Headhunter.net and all those ones that kind of started it. So that's kind of where I started. And then I just kind of rode the wave and was super lucky to work with lots of talented people throughout my career.
Yeah, I love that. And you're not the first teacher that we've had on the show. So that's really interesting. And I'm curious too, maybe we'll see some parallels here, but I was an English major, so I studied English, almost became an English teacher as well. Storytelling, right? Like storytelling is in the DNA. And do you feel like that carried over into your ability to be successful as a recruiter and recruitment marketer?
Yeah, 100%, because I think there's always this education level and this kind of training moment of teaching people new things about recruiting and what's kind of the latest and greatest, and kind of being able to present your curriculum up in front of people and talk and answer and ask questions at the same time.
Awesome. Yeah. So what brought you to Shaker? How did you end up at Shaker? And what does your current role entail?
So, so I was really lucky, made some different career moves. Joe Shaker and I have known each other since we've been in the space for quite some time. over at Shaker, I'm the VP of Digital. It is a new role. I've only been over here for about a year and a half, but I've been in the industry for about 24 years. I oversee two different departments. One is our digital media, which is all of our paid media, so Facebook and LinkedIn and TikTok. And then over on the other side is our digital solutions, which is more of our consulting arm, where we get to talk to clients and listen and learn from them about what their problem is and put together the best solution based on whatever their needs are. So it's really exciting.
What specifically? So there's no shortage of challenges that
Right.
HR leaders are faced with today, right? And we know all the buzzwords here on Town Experience Live: the Great Resignation,
Right.
the big quits, the sustained resignation. That's the new one that
I'll try to hit
I
most of
keep
them when I'm
hearing. Yeah,
talking.
all the buzzwords, all the hot new trends, right? So what is there anything specifically that's really exciting you the most in terms of challenges that you can tackle or
I think just in being in the industry right now, I think everybody's in a little bit of panic mode because of what's going on and with all the buzzwords that you just hit with, great resignation and people not wanting to work and people choosing not to work or people switching jobs and everything else. Um, and it's one of those things of to try to get people to take one step back and take a deep breath and look at what's going on in their own world rather than that kind of bright, shiny new thing that's kind of happening out there.
Yeah. And we'll get deeper into that. And I love that idea too of like if ever there was a time to take a step back and just take a nice inhale, exhale, these are the days, right? So, if even on a personal level, I'm encouraging all of our listeners, bake that into your day because it can definitely go a long way. But from a corporate company strategic level, this is the time to do it, right? So
Right.
what I want to do is kind of walk through some of the client challenges that you might be trying to solve, and kind of get into your approach to that, right? So I think one scenario would be if I came to you, right, and said, "Hey, Sarah, um, TikTok is all the rage. We need a TikTok strategy. Like it's all I'm hearing about. It's all I'm seeing.
Right.
I'm on it all the time. I'm actually not on it. I'm on it all the time. My colleagues are on it all the time. TikTok, TikTok, TikTok. We need to invest in it." Or Snapchat. Is Snapchat still alive? Is
Right.
it dead? Is that somewhere we should be? We're ready to drop some money on it. Like what would you respond? Like, how would you respond to that? Like if I came to you with so much enthusiasm about TikTok and here's our
Right.
budget, what's your take on that?
So I love TikTok. I'm on TikTok. I've
Sure.
gotten great recipes and learned a few dance moves on TikTok. So I think it's wonderful. But I think when clients come to me and say, "Hey, I want to invest in TikTok," I try to get them talking about let's talk to me more about what you're currently doing today. Like what are you currently doing? What's currently working? They know their business better than anybody else coming in, and learn a little bit more about that. And then try to put together more of a holistic strategy rather than kind of this band-aid fix, because the challenge that I have with any of kind of the bright shiny tools, it all comes back to the user experience.
Yep.
Like what does it look like when I get sent to that destination? Am I spending 20 pages filling out an apply process? What's going on there? And trying to kind of recenter their focus away from the shiny new thing, even though it's really pretty and fun. And maybe the shiny new thing is the right thing to do.
Yeah. And honestly, when we think about that shiny new thing, it's always just one piece of the puzzle, right? It's always
Right.
just one part of the process. So even if you do it and you do it right and it is super successful. So TikTok, for example,
Yep.
we put that in the attraction phase, right? Like if you're going to do that and you're going to do that really well and attract all these candidates, where, to your point, where are you sending them?
Right.
So do you dive deep into that? Do you dive deep into kind of the holistic journey of a candidate?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's starting with that conversation of, and you can kind of hit it two different ways: from an attraction strategy of like, what are you currently doing today? What are the tools that you're using? What is the messaging that you're using out there? What does your brand look like? But then you have all these eyeballs that you're potentially either organically getting or paying for, and you're sending them back to one central destination, whether it's a landing page, a career website, an event site. What is that experience there? And what's the content that's there? Because if I come to you and say, hey, I'm in desperate need for data analytic people, or I'm in desperate need for warehouse or truck drivers, where's your storytelling about your warehouse people and or your truck drivers? And are you conveying your brand about how wonderful it is to work there, and why would people want to come work for you versus your competitor? And what does that story look like?
How do you work through kind of the balance of the two? Like when you're working with a client, maybe they're really excited about the attraction piece, right? Like that's what
Right.
excites them the most. So they're eager. That's where you'll spend the money. They have the budget approved, so there's excitement about building the strategy and the content there. But then, Sarah, from your side, you're going over to their career site and you're just like, hey, this is busted, right? This is a broken experience, like I'm sure you explain it in much kinder words, but like,
I try.
how do you balance that? Like, are there ways that you help them assess, ways that you help them kind of dive deeper into the two different sides of the coin, not just attraction, but also conversion?
Right. So I think what I try to do when somebody's really excited about a specific strategy, kind of dig in a little bit deeper about the whys, and
Okay.
two, like, what are you expecting to get out of it? Like, what does winning look like? So if you do that big TikTok, how are you going to measure it? What is it going to look like? But I think more importantly, walking them through their own experience, looking at their own experience. So we'll go to their own career website and I'll ask questions about, where is this content? Can you direct me to go here? What does this look like? So that they can kind of visually see. And that's where I think, some of it keeps going back to teaching and education and training and kind of showing and demonstrating that. I think sometimes the client is like, oh, okay, well, maybe we should do this first. And I think I use the analogy or the story of, if you're going to pay for those eyeballs and you're going to send them to your career website destination, and this is a really bad experience, the eyeballs that you paid for are going to leave. They're not going to convert. They're not going to give you any data. They're not going to apply for your job or join your talent community or any of those kind of other call to actions. So to make everybody happy, you can just write me the check, right? So that I can go buy shoes, so that then you get something out of that. I clearly say that tongue in cheek, but I mean, I think it just goes to, like, if you're paying for these eyes to come here, what does that experience look like? And what are you trying to get them to do?
And if it's not a great experience, that might be the last experience they ever have with your brand.
Correct.
And that is huge, right? And I think that is a marketer's mindset that like I kind of have, from being in marketing. So I can totally understand that. Is it challenging to communicate that, to certain clients, or do they start to understand the importance of being able to really maximize that investment?
I think they understand and they appreciate it, that then we're not appearing as just kind of order takers.
Yep.
We deal with brands of all shapes and size all across, and there's, I think, a expectation that certain brands know exactly what they're doing and this one maybe not, and it's all across the board. Everybody has different org structures and resources and budgets and everything else. So it's trying to kind of, and I think they appreciate the education piece, because then they're going to go back internally and talk to their internal folks or their leadership and say, hey, I know we are going to go in this direction. However, what do we think about going over this way?
Yeah. And Patry chimes in saying, Sarah using that money to go buy shoes. I love that. Right. So I think that's a great way of thinking about it and talking about it, just in terms of, if you're going to write the check, right, at least make sure that you're maximizing the benefit of it from a holistic standpoint, right? Like when we're thinking about approaching it in that way strategically, we're attracting the eyeballs, right, through specific channels, new channels, experimental channels, maybe TikTok and Instagram. These are all experimental for certain brands. If we are successfully bringing them to a landing page or an experience on the career site that feels cohesive to what they saw, do you have any, you don't have to name specific brands, but do you have any examples of this being done really well? So I'll back up to, like, when I think of TikTok content,
Mhm.
I have a very specific image in my head, right? And I think most people do. And I find it hard to think about clicking through from TikTok to any career site I've ever been on and feel like it
Yeah.
was a logical step. So, what types of experiences should you be creating
Right.
to make them feel connected?
Yeah, I think with the TikTok, it's trying to create that holistic experience, right? So that it does look kind of seamless. I think it's just the content strategy. And again, this isn't rocket science. We've been talking about this for years, is one of the foundational pieces of doing anything. Even if you're doing that attraction piece and it's banners or job postings or whatever you're doing over there, what does that look like and what is that theme and where are you sending them to? And I think starting with that kind of content strategy piece where you have, here's all my wonderful content, because so many organizations have great content. It's just not organized and distributed properly. And so you can do that content strategy piece and then say, this is how I'm pushing it out on these channels because this is most appropriate. This is what it looks like on my career website. This is what it looks like on, whatever other channels you're currently using. I think you made mention earlier about, that might be their first experience.
Right.
And we talk about kind of like the job buying experience, because when you go to buy shoes or whatever else, you get, hey, you might like these shoes or you might like these shoes. And here's all the reviews about these shoes. And as consumers, we're used to that experience. And that translates very easy to that job buying experience. Hey, you clicked on this job. Guess what? You might like this job or this job.
Yeah.
And here's some reviews about working here. And I think that's what users expect.
Thanks, Amazon, right? Thanks a lot,
Totally.
Amazon, right? In a way, kind of made it easier for many of us by giving us, that perspective, right? But in a way, they've also introduced those challenges of needing to really personalize and build that
Yeah.
experience into it, that shopper's experience into it.
For sure. But that whole Amazon effect, I mean, how many, probably most of the people listening, right, have purchased, I would say, something on Amazon somewhere around. And when we go and we shop and we look for certain things, if hypothetically there is a review there that says this refrigerator was awful, how many people actually buy the refrigerator?
Right. Yep.
You don't. And so that translates over to jobs.
Yeah, you're looking for that credibility, and especially to your point, when it's your first visit from a brand's career site,
Mhm.
You're looking for those signals, the same way as when you're shopping for a product. One good way to kind of also tie this into Amazon too is when we think about Amazon, we know that they have just an incredible wealth of data, right? So they're very rarely is Amazon running experiments or just trying new things without some type of data to back up why they were running that experiment or why they were moving in that direction. And very rarely do they not have a way to measure if it was successful or not. So I'd love to get your take on data, right? And really starting to understand too, from a recruitment marketing perspective, what should you be looking at, and let's say you don't have much, right? Like maybe you don't have much and that's okay. What should you start to gather so that you can start to make better decisions?
Yeah. I would always say first look at what you have. And I know there is those scenarios where people are like, we're not tracking anything. Like we haven't looked at any of this stuff. But then it's more, how are you make business decisions? I've talked to different companies where that individual person is being measured against increasing visitors to the career website by X amount of percent. So that metric is really, really important to them. There's other people who are looking at how long does it take between when a person applies and we actually hire to them? What is that time scale? So it depends. And I hate with that answer, right? It depends and it's super gray. But I think start with your own data. I think many clients always ask, what is everybody else doing? And well, what's the benchmark for this? And what is this? But there's so many different variables when you look across the spectrum of different brands and how well the brand's known or not known and how much money they have and where they're or they don't have. Are they global? Are they US centric? Are they just on the East Coast? There's what are they hiring for? What's going on in the market? There's all these other variables that play into what that benchmark is. And the best data is going to be your own. And if you're not tracking anything right now, look at some of the best practices, look at some basic things where you guys make business decisions on and start tracking those. And then you can make really good, decisions for your own recruitment, hiring, your own marketing, your own brand based on those numbers.
Yeah, I love that. And the way that we've really teed up this episode is all about focus, right? And thinking about all these shiny objects as distractions, right? As things that are keeping you from really moving the needle. And how can you move the needle if you don't know which way you want the needle to move, right? So I think that, what you're describing, understanding some of those benchmarks that are important to you and your business,
Right.
putting those at the forefront. Like, do you think that that is one of the key ways to build focus into your strategy by kind of having that be the pillar piece that you center the other things around?
I do, because how do you know whether you're doing well? Like that's even like when at Shaker, when we come in and talk about either attraction or media, or we're talking about a career website or anything else, there's always that question of how do we know we're going to be successful? How do we know we're winning? So if we launch a career website, is that winning? Like, is that it? Is that what our metric is? So I try to get people to think about like, what's the internal conversation where you're going to say, this worked. Like we got it.
The difference between just checking the box, right? And that's so easy to do, right? Especially if you have the budget. It's like, okay, we're going to run this campaign. Okay.
Right.
Check the box. We ran the campaign.
Correct.
We're going to spend this money. Check. We spent the money, and to not know what happens after that is definitely a slippery slope. So I love that, that concept as well too. One of the big critical components too of all of this is really getting the brand voice down, and really making sure that when it comes to storytelling, when it comes to content, when it comes to brand voice, it is cohesive, it's powerful, it's differentiated. We talked about competitors,
Right.
it's not about doing what they're doing.
And does it say the same thing for everybody else? Like that's always the trick. If I cover up this logo, does that theme look like everybody else's?
Yeah. So when you're working with organizations, with clients who are really excited to dive into all these things, but you're noticing that the brand voice is either not where it needs to be, or not there at all, or just inconsistent across different channels. What kind of conversations are you having there?
Yeah, I think it's the story of two sides or parallel paths, because in our industry, we always move super fast. And there's probably no one listening who are like, yeah, we can completely stop everything and work on our brand and do all our research. And we don't have to recruit. Like they're always going to have to recruit and do that. So I think it's, what do we have to fix? Like what's broken? What do we have to fix? Is there something broken, and get that moving? And then the other thing is starting with that research. I mean, your brand is not necessarily what you're saying, right? It's what they are saying. And so starting to do research and or focus groups and get that moving so that you have those pieces. And I mean, man, once you have powerful content, there is so much you can do with it. But when you're starting with, you don't have any of your content, then you're kind of like then it starts to look all the same across everybody.
Yeah. I'm going to throw a curveball at you.
I'm ready.
What is one of the most, and again, like if you don't want to name the exact brand, that's fine. But like, what is one of the most like successful executions of that you've seen? Where it all came together. Like the brand voice was spot on. It was differentiated in a crowded space. The campaigns, again, tapped into it, led to a career site that was doing all the right things.
Yeah. I think it's when people realize that it's going to take time. Yep. Like we're I think in this, everybody, right? We get everything now. We want it now from a consumer side, right? Like there's plenty of times where, Instacart's delivering groceries, things are happening all at the same time. But I think when people can pause and take a minute to actually set that strategy up, as opposed to just moving forward with, let me put money on this media and on this channel and over here, and we just need a page up on our career website. We just want to get this, we have to get this page up. And you're looking at the entire site architecture going, this may not be the best
Yep.
to
Yep.
do it that way.
Yeah.
But I think it's when they can pause and do that. But when they have great like communication internally, I think one of the things that I talk about with career websites specifically, and very early on in kind of that discovery process, whoever our person who we're talking to, HR or recruitment or marketing or whoever that person is, I always say, get everybody to the table who can tell you no.
Gotcha.
In the very, very beginning. So whether that's communications and PR and IT and legal and whatever, so that everybody knows what the direction is and where you want to go. And I think the campaigns that I've seen that have been really, really successful, they've had that really open communication up front and kind of laid out the plan so that their entire internal team knows what's going on. And then they've been able to execute against it.
Yeah, I love that too. If you're just tuning in, Talent Experience Live, we have Sara Elkins, VP of Digital at Shaker Recruitment Marketing. If you have any questions for Sara about any of the topics that we're talking about, recruitment marketing, digital, this specific strategy of really understanding the holistic connection between the attraction and the conversion that's happening on your site, let us know. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Of course, if you're tuning in and watching the recording, let us know as well too in the comments. We're always monitoring. We can always pass some questions back over to Sara as well. So you just mentioned, getting everybody in the room who can say no, right? So for large organizations, that might be a lot of people.
Yeah.
For small organizations, might not be, a huge challenge. Are there any specific nuances that you run into when you're looking at recruitment marketing strategies for the large organizations versus the smaller ones?
I think you're probably already just said it, right? The larger organizations, it's hard from a communication because you
Sure.
may have a large global organization who, you have somebody who's in charge of, North America, and you have somebody who's in charge of Europe, and then downstream you have all this. So it's trying to educate and get that like steering committee, like the likelihood of getting everybody right on the phone, right? We know the biggest challenge is sometimes setting up the meeting is the hardest part. It's
Right.
just
Yep.
time on people's calendar. But if there's just communication, whether it's that core steering committee who's driving it, and then they're sending notes and everything out and getting feedback that way and coming back in, but that's what helps move projects along fast. I think we've all been part of projects where you get 2 months into it and then something happens and stalls out and then it kind of hangs.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And I'd imagine too that kind of like the strength of your existing brand goes a long way too. So for some of the larger organizations, they might not have to solve the awareness hurdle of like just the initial, like, who are you and what do you do? Like if you have that covered. Yeah.
But I think people assume because they have a big brand and they have a really awesome consumer brand that people want to go work there. And a lot of times that story is not out there. They have great about why to buy their product or their stuff or their service. And their consumer site is really awesome, right? The navigation on it, the content, the user experience, animate, like everything.
Yep.
And then you go to this wah page on careers, and it's like, what happened? And a lot of it's just having that conversation about that content and that strategy, because some of that content's there.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I've had that womp experience a few times myself, right? And it's like, are we even on the same website? And in most cases, you're not, right? You're taken off to a completely different website. My favorite is when the corporate site goes through a real big rebrand, like a huge rebrand, gets that new website overhaul. Everything looks really slick. But the career site was phase 2, right? So you have that, 6-month period where the career site is still the old branding, old colors, old look and feel. And that's always a challenge, right? So I definitely am cognizant of that, of course.
Yeah.
As we start to wrap up the show, I'm curious, are there any kind of just general words of advice? Like, what would you recommend any recruitment marketer or anybody who's in this position, they're navigating how to spend their budget this year.
Right.
Maybe they work with an agency, maybe they don't, maybe it's all in-house. What would you recommend? Like, where would you recommend they start?
I would tell them all to start, go to their own career website, go to their own career website, search for your jobs, look at your search results, look how they appear on the page, go ahead and click through, go to that job description page, and then try to apply for your own job. You don't need to be a UX expert to determine whether it works or not. We've all gone to web pages and gone, this is not where I thought I was going to go, or this is not the information that I thought was going to be there. That's UX. So just go through that process so you can see what your candidates are going through, so you can experience what your candidates are going through and even apply. I know probably some of the people are like, oh, you're going to put a resume in my ATS, but just go ahead and apply. See what that communication is back, because sometimes people don't know. Is there just a blanket email that says thanks? Is there no email? Is it a branded email that's coming back? Are there any other opportunities for me to learn more about your brand or your corporation? Where's that coming in?
Yeah, it's so critical, right? And I think you can either walk in the shoes of your candidates, or you can give Sara money to buy her own shoes, right? Those are your options, right? You can put yourself in the shoes of your candidate and kind of go through that experience, or you can fund someone else's shoes. I really love that. You know, here at Phenom, we always say like drink our own champagne, right? Or
Yeah.
eat your own dog food. A little less elegant way of saying it, right? But I think it's important. You know, I definitely think it's important to do it. So I'm so happy that you said that. And for anyone who's listening, great opportunity to go do it. It does not take long. And actually, if it does take really long, then maybe that's an indication that there might be a challenge there, right? We do have a question here from Patrizia. So when you ask folks to go through that process, do you find that a lot of people are surprised by walking through their own experience? What are the reactions you get?
Yeah, I'm laughing because, yes, I think a lot of them are surprised. I've been in rooms with executives where I've said, okay, we're going to play a game. Everybody just lost their job. Where do you start? And I walk them through the process of, they might say, we start at Google, and they go through, and then we get to a career website. And I say, okay, this is your organization's career website. Where do I go? And some of them don't, like, they can't find it, or it's challenging.
Yep.
And then I think all the light bulbs start going on with, oh, I didn't realize it was this, because maybe the focus has been on another project, or the focus has been on media or on a social channel or somewhere else.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I love that exercise. And I bet it's even more effective when you're doing it in person,
Yes.
almost in a workshop format with multiple people kind of going through the same thing at once. That's amazing. Sara, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate the conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We love everything that's happening over at Shaker too. So I'd love to know where our listeners can learn more about you, follow you, and also learn more about Shaker.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can learn more over at shaker.com. You can follow me on LinkedIn. You can message me on LinkedIn. If there's other questions, I'm more than happy to help answer questions and talk.
Awesome. And Sara, we'll love to have you on a future episode as well too. Recruitment marketing is such a huge topic for us, so we love covering it. But this has been amazing. Thank you so much. And we will hopefully catch you on a future one.
Wonderful. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Sara.
All right. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Well, there you have it. Sara Elkins, who is the VP of Digital at Shaker. Super exciting conversation. And again, I love the exercise, right? Go to your career site. Or don't even go to your career site, go to Google, right? Start there. That's an even better way, right? Or think about if you're clicking through from an ad, where would you go to? And put yourself in the candidate's shoes, right? And walk through that experience. Because if you're paying for those eyeballs, if you're paying for all that traffic, all that attention, and you're not converting, that is a challenge, right? And Sara so elegantly stated that in this episode. I want to give a shout out to our video producer, Justin Devitt. He is always behind the scenes, pulling the levers and helping us out, helping us look good, sound good, and helping the show run smoothly. So Justin, thank you. We salute you. Shout out to our executive producer on this episode, Patri Chupa. Patri is in the chat. If you have any questions about TXL, or if you have any ideas of future topics, future guests, reach out to Patri, reach out to myself as well. We're always happy to connect on LinkedIn. She is in the chat right now. Yeah, so you can connect with her if you're here live. I want to thank all of our listeners and all of our attendees today. Amy, as always, thank you for joining us. Love it. David, thank you as well for tuning in. Laura from Denver, welcome and thank you. We also had Patrick. Thanks, Patrick. John, Caroline, Pradeep. Yeah, a lot of great folks joining in today. Really appreciate it. Laura tuning in. Thank you. Awesome. This has been amazing. Happy Thursday, everybody. It's Wawa Day. Listen, if you're near a Wawa, I want you to go out and get one of these because I might sneakily go out and get myself another. Don't tell them that. But thank you so much for joining, and hopefully we'll catch you on next week's episode. I'll be in the office next week. We'll have an in-office episode, which will be really exciting. I'll get out of my little basement dungeon here, and we'll be able to connect with one of my favorite phenoms next week. So it's going to be a great episode. We're going to talk all about skills. Talk to you soon, and I will catch you on the next one.